Whenever you are ready.
Sweet.
Oh, wait. It's so close to me.
We will wait for you.
It's so close. All right. It's nice to be here in my house.
It is.
All right. Welcome to episode 3 of the 2-7 podcast. Today we are joined by
Jackie.
Jackie is a good friend of mine for about a year and a half now, and she is going to bring some well-anticipated topics that don't surround fatherlessness. I feel like you're struggling over there, bud.
No, I was trying to go between your words so I could actually have a chance to take it out of the audio, but
So I didn't mention this in the last. Yeah. Okay. Yep. Yeah.
it's delicious.
Okay.
I was trying to open mine right next to the mic.
Oh, really?
Oh, you got
For
that
the
ASMR.
Do it.
You can practically hear the lack of sugar.
Not a sponsor unless you want it to be.
I didn't mention this in episode 2, but I want to start this tradition of every episode we bring on a guest. We ask them like, hey, what's your favorite drink? We'll bring it and we'll all drink it. And I knew when I came up with this idea, I was going to have some bad choices. But last week, Mossy picked Arizona Peace Teas.
Okay.
You know, like they're cheap, like basically sugar water
Like
cans.
$1 for a
haven't-
huge thing.
Yeah, I haven't had those since like high school.
Same.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, only high schoolers.
I got them for free all the time when I worked for Budweiser.
I didn't know you worked for Budweiser.
Yeah, it
I
was
didn't
like
know you were a whitewater raft guide, and now
Yeah.
like I know you worked for.
I
Budweiser.
worked. The thing was, I worked for them when I was 18. So everybody would be like, "You work for them?"
You're not 21.
Jackie has blessed us with the choice of kombucha,
Yeah.
and we have 3 different flavors. Wesley, what are you drinking over there?
Strawberry Serenity.
Do you feel Serenity right now?
That's the favorite part. That's the best part.
I have raw kombucha. It is watermelon wonder, and I wonder a lot of things when I sip this. I wondered if I was gonna throw up.
That's my sister's favorite. No lie. She's like, this is my treat.
Hey, try mine. Let's switch. It's okay, dude.
Dude,
I have
maybe
COVID.
later.
It's okay.
I didn't
only
tell
need
you,
a
but I
little
got
bit.
so excited when I saw this. This is one of my favorites.
That one?
Yeah.
Blood
I
orange?
almost didn't get it because the label's different.
It is. It's like a winter edition.
This
is the ASMR
orange.
portion of the podcast.
Hibiscus and rose.
Okay, so when you started drinking kombucha, did you like it? Okay,
No, I did not.
that concerns me that I might start to like this. I hope I don't.
I hope
This
you do.
smells awful, but it tastes good.
Is there
It smells
vinegar in
different.
it? Well, I know.
No,
I kind of know how
it's-
it's made.
It's just, yeah.
My roommate makes it, and she has like the culture at the top of it. What is it called? A mother? Or
It's
a
SCOBY.
SCOBY. That's right.
But it is a mother
Yeah.
bacteria.
It does not taste. That's weird. Have you smelled this?
I have.
It smells terrible.
It
But
smells like a nice little watermelon
It smells
treat.
like I'm gonna
No.
dissect a frog.
No,
No,
it
doesn't.
tastes like that, but it smells. Oh, it smells like vomit. Smell that.
What?
Maybe that's why.
Guys,
The smell is different than the taste.
I really enjoy it.
So if you're
I
gonna
have
come,
2 drinks, actually.
You almost
Oh, yeah,
chipped your
what do you
mug
I
have?
again.
almost chipped it.
Yeah.
you almost chipped it again.
Oh, give me mine.
This
Mine's
is my
better.
favorite mug. Doctor Who.
Doctor Who, police in the box. Okay, so I'm gonna admit something.
It's a TARDIS.
It is a TARDIS.
Is that what you're about
So-
to admit?
No. Yeah, I'm gonna admit that that's a TARDIS.
Don't
seen-
admit it.
I've seen
Admit
half
it.
of an episode of Doctor Who.
That's
Half.
okay. Which
Mhm.
one? What happened?
I honestly don't remember.
was
I just
disappointed
know
in
that
that.
I was watching Doctor Who. That's all I was told, and I was like,
I've seen like 4 seasons of it.
it's not like I'm against it.
I think
just,
it's in like 9.
My wife made
many
me
are there?
stop because
There's
I
like
wanted to keep going, but she was like, "No, the
14
writing it's
maybe.
awful. I'm not
14.
I
going to
don't
watch
think
it."
you can have your favorite mug be based off a TV series you haven't watched in completion.
Oh, that's unfair. There are
haven't
so
watched-
many
We're
seasons
taking
of that.
that away from you.
Okay.
That show's been going on for like 70 years or
has.
something.
How many?
Like 70 years or
Yeah,
something. Like it was the
since,
first
like,
episode.
60s, I think.
First like 5 or 10 actors who played the guy were in black and white.
Yeah.
I don't know. People who actually know it are going to be yelling at me because I'm not getting all the details right, but you get what I'm saying.
I didn't know that. I thought it was like since like the 90s.
No,
Oh, no,
when
that's
they
with the reboot.
revamped.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So our last couple of episodes have. Oh, you want it back? Yeah, that's cool.
That one's way better.
Okay.
Go on. Audio listeners, I apologize for all the visuals happening on in this intro.
Yeah. Hey, we are on.
That's
We're on
true.
Apple Podcast as
Yeah.
of yesterday or
Yep.
today of yesterday.
Yep.
Yeah.
As long as I end up paying the subscription, because I have 90 days to do that, and that was like 15 days ago that I
Okay.
started.
So you got like
I got some time.
you got some time.
I got some time.
So the last couple episodes have, I feel like we've talked about fatherlessness a lot, like you and I, and then with Mossy.
And there's still a lot to unpack there. Still.
Yeah,
but-
yeah. And it's not that I don't like talking about it, but like I honestly want this podcast to be about other people, and I've been really excited to have Jackie on because you're gonna bring some topics that Wesley and I aren't necessarily gonna be able to relate to, and this is gonna be like all you. So
All right.
pretty excited. So with that said, let's go and get started with like, who are you? Who is Jackie? What do people get to find out about you in like the first 5 or 6 times they meet you?
No crazy questions like last time.
I mean, we already did the kombucha thing, so
Yeah. Okay.
yeah,
Things that people find out, like first hanging out with me.
sure.
I have an accent.
How would you describe that accent?
I don't know because I can't hear it. So I don't know. People say it kind of sounds like slang almost. I think that's the California thing. I'm from California. But I'm also Latina, so you could probably hear that too. And it's a mixture of like that Latin California vibe.
Sure.
Yeah.
I think like, because I'm thinking about it now, I feel like I hear you have more of an accent when you get more passionate about things. And that's how I am. Like when I get passionate about things, like my draw starts coming out. I'm like, shut up.
Mine doesn't. I don't have one at all. I have
Yeah.
to. I have to practice my fake Southern accent, even though I grew up in the South.
Talking like you're from Georgia.
Yeah, people from the South are like, "Where are you from?" I'm like, "Down the street." And they're like, "Nah, you ain't. Well, stop lying. You ain't from Shelbyville,
Shelbyville.
Shelbyville,
Shelbyville.
Shovel,
Shovel.
Shovel."
Shovel.
Yeah.
Shovel.
All right. So you have an accent. You're from the LA area.
Yeah, SoCal. Like
SoCal.
30 minutes east of LA. Yeah.
Represent.
Hey. Like I grew up in what you would say the suburbs, but it wasn't. We were like the ghetto part of the suburbs, like the
What was that called?
Pomona.
Pomona.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah. Actually, so Pomona was known for you know that I Love Lucy show?
Yeah.
They took their honeymoon there.
Really.
So Pomona used to be like the center of like all Hollywood stars going on vacation away from the city.
Wow.
Yeah, so a lot of our downtown was like very old school and preserved, and yeah, that's where we would hang out like all through high school.
And then I remember in a discussion recently, you said you had a cousin that lived like not too far away in a completely different neighborhood that was like not the ghetto.
Yes.
Yeah?
Yeah, she actually grew up in Pasadena. She
Okay.
grew up in LA. I think when she turned about like 10 or 11, she moved to Pasadena, and Pasadena is like a nicer area. You definitely live there if you have money.
Sure.
Yeah.
All right. So you're from California. You're out here in the Seattle Tacoma area.
Mm-hmm.
What brought you out here?
Ooh. Living a dead-end life, just being tired of living a dead-end life, a broken life out in California. I had a friend who was stationed in Fort Lewis here. Hadn't talked to him in, I'd say, 5 years. Last time I had talked to him, I think, was right out of high school at 18. He stayed in contact with my sister, and my sister actually came up here to visit him. At that time, me and my sister weren't really talking, and so when he asked about me, she was like, she's not doing well. Maybe you could help her out. Just kind of planting little seeds here and there, like reach out to her, maybe see how she's doing on your end. And he reached out, and yeah, he offered for me to come up here, but I didn't really take him up on it until like 2 years after that. Yeah, and so I moved up here. He was stationed in Fort Lewis. I had 4 or 5 months before he like left the military to get out on my own 2 feet, and then I decided to just stay.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's kind of like I can kind of relate with that because I was given the opportunity to move out here into my sister's house, as a teenager, and when I graduated high school, I just decided to stay.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, okay, well, life is cool out here, so don't fix it if it's not broke.
I mean, for me, it wasn't cool.
No?
No. So I moved up here, and then 4 months later, my sister moved up here.
Okay.
But that was also not planned. She was trying to get up to Canada, spent all the money, but it wasn't her. It's a long story, but she was pretty much giving somebody a ride. That person used them the whole ride up there, like, pay for this, do this, and I've got you once we get up there. And he ended up, like, not even, he was actually exiled from Canada, couldn't go in. So at the border, they kicked them all out.
What do you have to do? Canadians are known for being extra nice.
Dude, that's what we were saying. That's the thing. This guy was super sketch. That's the kind of life we were living, just very
He probably refused to say sorry.
sorry.
Yeah.
Hey,
And they're not
probably.
a boat to that life.
They're not
He
a
bumped
boat.
into somebody and he didn't say sorry, and they asked him, like, what's up, bro? And he was like,
I wish I could keep
You gonna
this
keep going? Yeah.
I wish I could.
And then they just stared at each other without saying anything.
Oh, man. I'm
and
like, hockey.
thus he was exiled. All right. Okay, so, like, let's talk about, like, hobbies. I know you like playing soccer.
I love playing soccer, yeah.
Is your favorite sport?
I would say it is, yeah. I love all sports. I love any form of team activities. And when you're physical in doing it,
Okay, I'm going to
it's
put you
my
on the
favorite.
spot. Cheerleading. Is it a sport?
Ooh. I've never done it, but that's like a lot of stretching and gymnastics,
sure.
right? So
Marching band.
you walk. No, I wouldn't say it's a sport.
I know a lot of
Do
people.
they call it a sport?
Because you're doing the instrument, you're holding a heavy instrument all the time. You're doing like coordinated movements around on the field
Okay.
with a heavy, sweaty gear.
And you can be competitive, you know?
It's a stretch.
Yeah.
It's a stretch.
It is, but
Okay, let's take it,
Coordinating.
like, the last step further. Competitive video game players.
Esports. is what they call
Esports,
it.
yeah.
No.
No? Okay, so
You
here's my
think
argument
so?
to...
That's mental.
Okay,
That's mental
I don't
That
gymnastics.
is mental,
I don't know
actually.
if I believe they are, but, like, I look at, like, different sports. Like, wrestling is very intense. Like, and, like, your success percentage when it comes to, like, taking shots is, like, 10%. Like, you have to take 10 shots to get a takedown, you know?
Oh,
Whereas,
okay.
like, in basketball, like, you shoot the ball, it should be, like, in the high 80s, mid 90s to be, like,
Yes.
there's a lot of, you know. But then, like, soccer, right? Like, I mean, how many times do people shoot for goal? Like, you know, what is it, kick,
Probably
shoot
like
for
yeah,
goals? I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't
shoot
know
for a
what the
goal.
Yeah, like, I don't know. So, like, there's a lot of different things, but, like, then I look at baseball, and the intensity is not there like it is in wrestling. They have guys with, like, beer guts hitting home runs.
Yep.
And
Barely having to
pitchers,
sprint,
like,
yeah.
pitchers, all they have to do is throw a ball accurately, and it becomes, like, a precision sport.
Mhm.
I'm not going to say, like, there aren't, like, baseball players that, like, there are baseball players that need to be fast. There's ones that need to be really strong, tall, shorter, a lot of different things. But, like, I don't know. There's just, it's so much more of a precision sport. And I started thinking about, like, video games. Like, you don't have to be, like, super athletic, but you have to be, like, your mind has to be a lot more focused.
Mhm.
I think no matter what, when it comes to if something is sport or not, I think, like, there has to be a level of competitiveness.
Okay.
Like, I don't consider it a sport if you don't compete with people.
So there's no solo sports. What about like Olympic stuff or like I don't know, I'm thinking like Scandinavian like log throwing or wife
Well,
carrying
I mean,
races.
is someone else do it? Like, if you throw a log and you throw it 15 feet,
yeah,
and I
it'd be
throw a
taking
log
turns.
for 17 feet, now we're competing.
How
Yeah.
big are these logs?
I don't know.
I'm trying to
So
picture it. I'm like,
It's a sport if we get together and do it, but if I'm just doing it, if I'm throwing logs in my backyard, it's not a sport.
They're definitely logs that are, like, riddled with termites and very light because of it. Like,
yeah.
That's why. Yeah.
Those are the ones you're going for.
That's what you look for.
Those are I'm like, I bring those to competition. Like, what does, like, career look like for you?
All right.
I feel like I
Long
kind of don't know some of this about you.
Yeah, you probably don't. I feel like I don't know some of the stuff about me. No. So, just recently, I'd say in the last year, maybe in the last 2 years, I actually came into an understanding of a passion of mine, which is helping people. And that is one thing that I do really want. I don't know what it looks like yet. That I really want to get some training on how to actually be able to do that.
Helping people in what regard or what capacity?
So, like, teaching is one of the things that I see myself being really good at. Just listening to people and knowing how to help, even if I don't know how, I can lead into a place where, or yeah, like lead them into the right place where they begin to ask the right questions or even begin to believe in themselves again. So with that, it's like, I know this is a gift of mine. How do I hone it? So I started actually going back to school, I think 2 years ago. When I met you, I was actually in school and teaching or para-educator for preschool students, preschool kids. And that was so much fun. I think that's when I really stepped into a place where I was like, okay, I can definitely see myself doing this for the rest of my life. Before that, it was just getting a job, really, just going on with the flow, just getting through the grind. So before that, I didn't really stop. And honestly, I didn't really stop and think. That's why I'm still here and not starting anything yet, you know? So yeah, that would be something. And I just, what is that called? I just registered for school. So I'm going back to school. Yeah, I just enrolled. So that's one thing that I'm going back into.
What are you going for?
Teaching. But the thing, so right now I'm just finishing my associates. And I have this feeling like I'm just going to know the closer I get to accomplishing that, like completing that I'll know if I'm going to go into counseling or if I'm going to actually be a teacher.
I could honestly see you doing both.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, and I think you definitely do have like the gift of teaching. Like, 'cause it's definitely a gift. Like a lot of people want to like be in a position of authority or a position of whatever, and they think like, oh, like if I teach kids, like, you know, people look up to me and think, but like they just lack the gift. They lack the like creativity to like teach different individuals, and I think like you definitely have that.
Sweet.
And then I think that also goes in with like counseling as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Thanks.
for sure. Now let's talk about like your upbringing, because that's what the show is all about: rough upbringings and
The hands that we've been dealt in life.
the hands that we have been dealt in life. Yeah, the 2-7. I guess this episode is constantly seeking out like who has the real 2-7, who has it worse. You know, like,
Not to compare, but
not to compare for sure, but like I don't know. I mean, I think like, you know, someone like I always complain about like, not complain, but like I look at my upbringing and it was kind of rough, and then I look at like my cousin's upbringing and I was like, that was worse, and he might say the same about somebody else's, and so it's not so much like a comparison, but yeah, like centered around the 2-7 idea. This would kind of be like time where I think I'm probably gonna not ask any questions for a couple minutes and like just let you just unload like like where you been, what's happened in your life.
Man. So I grew up, I'm the middle child. I'm also my dad's firstborn. My mom was married before she met my dad. My parents are both from Central America. My dad is from El Salvador and my mom is from Honduras. They met in Los Angeles. They met at English school, and I think 4 months later I was born. So they stopped going to school to learn English, had me, and then a year or like 18 months later had my sister. And then from like the city of LA, they moved over to Pomona to raise us. My brother at that age, I think he was 5 or 6, and being my dad's firstborn. So my dad is like the favorite of the family. My dad helped everybody, a lot of people, not everybody, a lot of people cross over. So he was one of the first people. There was a civil war in El Salvador. It killed a lot of people, and the people that it didn't kill, they were pretty much just, you know, these villages were raped and torched, and just a bunch of ugly things that happened in war. My dad was one of the first people to flee the country. At that time in the 80s, they were giving asylum to Salvadorians who were pretty much coming out here for refuge. And my dad was one of the first people to do that. And he was able to help by working and making money by getting all of his family members out here. And not just family members, people who he knew from his village, people that would reach out, like they would hear that he was in California, if he could help them out to get out of El Salvador, and he did. So my dad is very well known. He's the little town that he grew up in. The Lara last name is pretty well known. It's respected, and out here, my dad is like loved. So I was his firstborn. Everybody loved me. So I did receive a lot of love. Growing up, though, my brother didn't. My brother was from my mom's first marriage, and so my grandma, actually, my dad's mom, was very cruel, a very cruel lady, very religious. She loved me, though, so I never got that cruel side of her. But I would see how she would treat my sister and my brother, and my brother was getting, growing up in a household where your brother's getting beat all the time sucked. Not being able to help either sucked. Later on, growing up, we also discovered that. So my dad, when they moved from LA to Pomona, he moved with one of his older brothers so that they could share the house together, and it would be cheaper. So my uncle had, I think, 6 kids at that time, 6 boys, and my dad, we had the bigger part of the house. They had the garage. They set it up as like a living space. But the boys, they all shared the same room. So they shared a room with my brother. My brother got raped by 2 different, those cousins for, I'd say, 4 years, 6 or 7 years. So not only is he getting beat by just being himself or like being a child, really, but he's going through all this. And so all of that, then growing up, seeing this, also my sister not really getting a lot of love from my dad's side of the family. My dad's side was very there. Like my dad's side of the family, we were like the kind of family that had barbecues every weekend. We had people over all the time, always hosting, always a good time. But my mom's side, they still lived in Honduras. A lot of them hadn't really crossed over yet. So we grew up with my dad's side of the family at the beginning. And not until I got older that I realized like a bunch of different things. Like at this point too, I was, I think, about 5 years old. The boy across the street used to, and it's wild, like looking back, but this boy used to ask us to do things to him. And so, oh my goodness, how am I just getting into all of this right now? Yeah, so he used to ask us to do things to him, and for me to keep my sister from doing any of this stuff, I would do it twice. So I would go into the room with him and just, and like I would always afterwards say like, oh no, we have to leave. So I think this is like 6 years old or something. So just knowing that I don't ever want to go back there, just feeling like that, but also feeling shame. I know this feeling now, but I didn't know that then. And almost like you don't want to face anybody. So I was always very quiet. And whenever I would speak up, it always felt like it doesn't matter what you say. I'm the middle child too, so I see the disconnect between people, and I want to connect it, and they're like, you don't know anything. Be quiet. you don't actually know what's going on here. Don't say anything. Or things like that. So growing up, I heard that a lot. So growing up, I didn't really speak up. I barely talked. I always obeyed. I always did what I was told. And so in high school, I end up, uh, actually, I'm not even in high school yet. I think I was in middle school. My mom's side of the family starts crossing over. So then we become, and my dad's side of the family moves out to their own place. So now it's just us. My mom, my brother, my sister, me, living in this house. And my brother's barely home. He's not in gangs, but he's gang affiliated. So he's like growing up, really just seeing him coming home with like pepper spray in his face and running from the cops, like beat up. All this stuff is just normal. Him never being home. I didn't really grow up with a brother. When I would see him to try to get on his good side, I wouldn't tell when I would see him smoking or drinking or with girls in the room. And my sister would, so my sister would get beat up by him. And so it was just kind of like always trying to be on his good side.
Because your sister would rat him out?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But she would get like whooped, man. My sister just ruthless. Yeah. She didn't care.
Does she rat you out sometimes?
Yeah.
Yeah.
She would.
Youngest sister? Or,
Yeah.
like, just the three of you,
Yeah,
right?
she's a baby. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we kept each other's. I would rat her out sometimes too, but it wasn't as bad as if like she would rat me out, you know.
And you weren't trying to get on our good graces, I imagine, like the big brother.
No. Yeah. But so middle school, my brother's barely home. We now have family members coming over from Honduras. I'm from my mom's side, and two of those are cousins, and they're older. One of them is 24 at the time. He is actually like always drinking.
1 second.
How are you?
I'm good.
When was the last time you talked about this?
Oh my gosh. I don't know. I haven't talked about the 7-year-old me at all, ever.
Really?
Yeah.
This is like the first time.
Yeah. That's why I'm
speaking to
like,
people?
whoa. Yeah, about this.
Have you told your family?
I have not, no. Yeah. So at this point, my mom's side of the family is coming over, crossing over. So what that means is we are now the house that shelters them until they get on their own 2 feet, and then they kind of start their own life there. One of the family members who does cross over is a 24-year-old at that time. And he was like pretty much a party animal, just drinking all the time, coke, weed, just drugs, right? And slowly I would notice the way that he would look at me. It would make me feel disgusting, very uncomfortable. And eventually all those things led to him actually, finding me when I was in the bathroom and like closing the door and me having to escape. And slowly it was just like him. It was slowly escalating. So first it was looks, then it was finding me in certain places where I'm by myself. Then eventually it was like closing the door behind us, asking me questions, asking me to undress myself. I'm 12 years old. Then eventually, and this is almost always when he's drunk. So there's like certain things that I would do to keep myself, I'm 12 years old, to keep myself from like being in his area at all. But yeah, eventually it ends up becoming like he's physically touching me this one time. And it almost felt like it was months before things would happen again. But this one time, we're going over to an aunt's house, and she calls over all the kids, and we all get inside the car, and I right away say, I don't want to go. And she's like, why not? She's trying to convince me. But she's thinking, I don't want to go because I'm trying to exclude myself and just not be part of like what everybody's doing. And I'm like, no, I just don't want to go. And so now at this point I'm fighting her, and she's like, come on, just come. And so I end up saying, okay. But I felt it. I knew that I shouldn't. So I go, she sits me in the front seat. It's like an old Buick. So she's driving. It's my cousin, the guy who's been like pretty much harassing me for the last couple of months, and then me up in the front seats. And I'm thinking, we're in the front seat. I'm safe, right? There's like 5 kids in the back. Everybody's messing around, and he begins to touch me. And I'm actually wearing shorts, so he begins to like actually touch me, something he's never done before. And seriously, I still remember how that felt, the feeling of going completely blank and almost like a helplessness, like this can't really be happening to me right now, right? But at the same time, I can't yell, I can't scream, I can't say no, don't. I'm just paralyzed. It gets to the point where, I mean, this is like a 30-minute drive or something. And finally, the girl behind us says, what are you doing? And he then says, like, pretty much just moves his arm, like, completely out and makes it very obvious. And so my aunt, who's driving, is like, what is happening? But then they realize there's a bunch of kids. All the kids are asking what's happening. And so everybody stays quiet. And I remember we get to the house, everybody's playing outside, and I remember seeing these kids. I'm a kid. Seeing these kids playing, just complete bliss, joyful. And I realize I'm no longer a child. And I get called inside. And my aunt's like, tell me what happened. Also, he's there. Tell me what happened. The crazy thing is this, I'm 12 years old. I don't know what happened. And I shouldn't be explaining it in front of him either. The way that it was addressed to was awful. At least for a child. I didn't understand what was happening. I started yelling at him. And instead they just took me out and never addressed it. I got home and I knew that I didn't want to see my mom. I knew that at this point she would know about it. She would know about it already. And she did. She called me into the room and she's like, hey, I want to talk to you. I want you to tell me in detail what happened. And I just don't want to relive this. And so then now she's like asking me, it's okay, it's safe, just tell me. But it's I just went through trauma and I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to relive it, at least not in that same moment. But I just kind of shut down completely. I just tell her that I'm okay. And I honestly don't remember her following up. I honestly thought that I would never see him in my house again. And he was there the following week. And continued to be there for years. And then later on, that was the last time he did that. But I was 12 years old. At 14, a different cousin came over from Honduras. And he was 17. He was a senior in high school. I was in 8th grade, I think. And he would always try to kiss me and try to get me to kiss him, and would tell me a lot of really disgusting slurs, like about the way that my appearance really, and the things that he wishes he could do to me. And that was also very disgusting, especially coming from my cousin. Not just that, he did throw, like, he really pressed himself on many times. one of those times that other older cousin walked in on once, and I think he assumed in that moment that me and him were having a relationship or something. So that caused the cousin from when I was younger to pretty much come back into my life and start messing with me again. At this point, I had a boyfriend. I was 15, I think. I had a boyfriend, and I had already shared with him the things that had happened. And it was spring break. My sister was at camp. My brother wasn't home. My parents were on vacation, and I was home alone. And my cousin knew that, and he came home. He brought his daughter, and I didn't let him in. And so then later, I'd say an hour or two later, he comes back, but I only see his daughter knocking on the door. I look outside, I don't see the vehicle. So he must have driven her there, and this is what I'm thinking, driven her there and left her there. But he didn't do that. So she's there by herself. It's about 20 minutes. She's still there. She's knocking. And so I finally open the door, and by the time I open the door, he rushes in. So it's like he parked somewhere else to rush inside the house. At that point, I run to my room, and he's running behind me. And once again, I try to lock the door behind me, but he beats me to it, pushes the door down, pushes me on the bed, and begins to undress me and pretty much try to rape me. And at that point, I start to kick. I start to grab everything around me, and I actually get loose. He was drunk, and I don't think if he wouldn't have been drunk, I probably wouldn't have been able to get away. I don't know, but I'm grateful that I did. After that, I didn't tell anybody because I felt like I was a dumb one to have opened the door when I knew I shouldn't have. I was also dumb for allowing this to happen again. All the lies that I kept telling myself, so I didn't tell anybody. I ended up telling a younger cousin of mine that I grew up with. Actually, like my brother grew up with him, and he was so upset that he confronted him and pretty much told him, like, if I ever find out that you're doing this, like, I will kill you. And threatened him, and then pretty much told my mom because he knew that I wasn't going to tell my mom. So that's how this all came to light again. But again, it wasn't addressed. Nobody talked about it to me or with me. Nobody told him anything. He was still allowed in the house. There were no boundaries. There was nothing. Just swept under the rug. And so I just kept living my life, numb to everything. Went through a few breakups at 16, and then all because these were great guys, right? I always thought, like, how is it that these really good guys love me and I can't love them back? I was broken. I didn't love myself. And so at 16, I'm starting to party a little bit more. I think I started drinking for the first time, and there's going to be this huge party I think it's like Halloween party or something, and my mom ends up finding out about it. Actually, I don't even think she knew about it, but her church was going to have a women's or girls retreat, and she really wanted me and my sister to go, and me and my sister right away said no, and she made us go. And I'm so grateful for that. So it was a three-day retreat out in the woods, in a cabin. And these ladies, man, knowing now what I know now, these ladies had a lot of intercessions before, because the Holy Spirit was very, very, very there. I remember one of the times they spoke to us about the gospel and what Jesus came and did. And I remember at that point in my life just knowing Jesus is who we celebrate on Christmas. There's all these movies going on in every channel during Christmas time about this guy. Growing up, not really having really a relationship with God, or we weren't religious. My dad's side of the family was Catholic. They just grew up like that. So they were very religious, but our household was not religious like that. We didn't have like the Virgin Mary up. And so all of that was very foreign to me. I would see it at other people's houses, but it was just something that was always there.
Just in the background?
Yeah, completely. And so now I'm at this retreat and they're talking to me about this man, and it's Jesus. But Jesus is also God, and God became man so that he can have a relationship with me. And not just that, but he died so that my sins would be washed as white as snow. And I didn't understand that. How could somebody love somebody so much that they could do that? I had never felt love like that. I mean, I know my parents loved me. And I know that. But they were broken too. And I was a child and I didn't receive the love that I should have. And I felt it. And I grew up with that hole in my in my soul. And coming to this encounter and encountering the love of Christ, I realized I'm broken, I'm empty, and I can be loved. And so that's where my journey with Christ began.
Yeah.
You were about 16, 15?
I was 16 years old, yeah.
So this is like, I mean, we can kind of start talking about like the healing and like the upward motion of your life. But I had like a couple questions. So like, So you said you had a family member, and I'm sorry, I forgot who, but they said like they confronted your cousin and said, hey, if you do this again, I'm going to kill you, kind of thing. Like, on a scale of 1 to 10, how serious do you think they were?
Dude, 10.
10? Yeah.
But he was literally like 14 years old, you know?
Oh, yeah.
Was that your other cousin or was that your brother?
No, that was like my brother.
Oh, that was your brother? Okay.
So I grew up with, oh my goodness. So I did leave a lot of stuff just.
No,
but my mom's a twin.
Okay.
My mom, when she moved out, so my mom fled her country.
Sure.
But she fled from her husband. She was in an abusive relationship. Honestly, it wasn't like abusive in the sense of, actually, I don't even know if like she would get beat or anything, but she never talked about it if she did. But she just knew that it just wasn't what she wanted. And she would always pursue a relationship with God, and he just didn't want that. And he also wasn't really driven. And so she realized I was 18 years old when I got married and 19 when I got pregnant. Like, this isn't the life that I want. But she tried to convince him to move out to the States with her, and maybe we can start a new life together. And he was just not driven, not wanted that for his life. And so she said, okay, well, I'm leaving. And she would say it for months. And then finally she just did. On her way, she went to her sister's house and just said, hey, I'm going to the States. Do you want to come? And my aunt was like, yeah, let's do it. She was also married with a child.
Oh, my gosh.
And then didn't bring the husband?
No, because he also didn't want to come.
Well, I'm like, let me get my favorite pair of jeans. And I'm out the door. Let's go.
Seriously.
Yeah, like, that would have been me, like, when I was younger, be like, let me grab my Game Boy Advance and Pokemon Ruby, and I'm out. Let's do it.
Pokemon Ruby.
Yeah, for sure.
I was a Sapphire.
That's okay.
I always got the blue. Doesn't matter. Go on. It doesn't matter.
Sorry.
No, you're good. You're good. So my mom lived in Mexico for 3 years. I think it might be 2 years.
Before she came to the States?
4. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Before she came to LA. Because they made it all the way with the money they had, they made it all the way to Mexico. And in Mexico, they stayed in Mexico City. And my mom worked for all 4 of them to be able to cross over. So my aunt stayed in a certain area of, like, I think the beginning of Mexico. And my mom went to the city. And so she stayed there. She worked until she had enough money to cross them all over. At that time, my aunt met a man there and pretty much crossed over with him. So they got married and they had a son. And my mom then crossed over, met my dad, had me and me and my sister. And my cousin grew up in LA and would come over every weekend. And it got to the point where his parents got divorced. So my aunt moved out to Arkansas. And at that time, Miguel did not want to move to Arkansas. He did, actually. He moved there and he didn't like it. So my mom asked my aunt, like, well, why don't you have him live with me? Like, you know, he can live with me. And we were all so stoked, you know, like, yeah, we're going to get to live together. And we did. We lived together for about 5 or 6 years. And so we grew up together. And that's around that time that happened.
Gotcha.
Yep.
Where was your dad during, the first 16 years of your life or so? Was he involved? Did he hear about the things going on? Did he do anything about it?
He was there. He did hear about it. He did not get involved. He does not get involved into things. It's very passive. It's easier to not address certain things. He's a very loving dad. He really is. He's a very good provider. But emotions and treating women with respect is not his strong suit.
You'd say you have some criticisms towards that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, up until a few years ago did I realize that I was holding on to so much anger.
Sure.
To men, not just him, but men. I would see certain ways that men would speak to women, and I would right away say sexist or like, or, you know, just put up a front and just fight it.
How are we friends? No, I'm just kidding.
No, I
Good
mean,
point.
Christ, that's
Yeah,
how.
probably, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, God has brought a lot of healing in my heart in that already.
So when I ask, like, you know, you definitely have some criticisms towards your dad, like, when you think about, like, having a family someday, because I know that's something you want, like, what would be your expectation of your husband if he found out one of your kids went through something similar?
I would absolutely want him to address it.
Yeah.
Like, but for it to come from him, you know,
Yeah,
like
for sure.
his heart for his daughter or son.
Right. Not just because you're telling him, so
Yeah.
you have that expectation.
Yeah. Present. Even if he doesn't know what to say, just being present.
If he kind of took the role, like the route your 14-year-old brother did, and that, like, I'll kill you kind of thing, like, would you be like, hey, slow down, or would you be like,
Yeah, he's going
Nice.
to kill you.
nice?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'll bury the body.
Yeah, yeah.
You've already got the shovel. Like,
Sure. I
this
mean,
isn't
like,
the first time.
Yeah. Like, I hear this story, and I'm like, it's a similar feeling I get when I'm, like, reading a book. You know, like, there's something happening. It's like, I can't do anything about it. I'm just, like, I am forced to let the story play out, and I can't be, like, a part of it.
Mm-hmm.
But I think, like, if I'm in those shoes, like, I think about everything I've worked for in life, everything, like, I've accomplished to get out of from where I was. And people listening, I've kind of heard a few things, but, like, you know, I feel like I've done a lot to get out of my situations, and I've gotten to a certain point, and would I be willing to throw that away because I was, like, so, like, egregiously offended by the actions of someone else, like, within the family, you know, like that? Like, would I, like, kill, like, a secondary family member because they touched my child? And it's like, when I think about it, I'm faced with a moral dilemma, so it's just easier to not think about it and just react. Be like, you know, if I don't think rationally about it, then, like, like, it's an easy decision. Like, it's not really so much of a decision. It's just like, I mean, that's just what you do.
Yeah.
So I don't know. This is something I just was curious about. I think we're gonna take a pause so we can get whatever this is figured out. How you doing so far?
Good.
Yeah, I was like, oh, like, we are on a longboard that I feel like is wobbling right now. We're gonna see how this goes. Like,
Seriously, dude, I'm like, whoa, I did not expect to cry at all.
I'm trying. I'm really trying with this.
It's not that bad. Baby.
Okay, let me ask you this: how many people have you shared that story with?
So in the
Ballpark.
last, like in my whole life, ooh, I'd say 5 up until this last month.
Yeah.
It's been like about 12 people.
So this is still kind of exclusive.
This is
Mhm.
11. This is 11 and 12.
Yeah, no, is it? It might be 17 right now with you guys.
Okay, but
Yeah.
still, I mean, like, see, for a second, I thought we made top 5 or like, and then it was like top 7, and then you said 11 or 12. I'm like,
I mean,
make
I'm.
top 10, and then it's like, okay, we're top 20. So.
But if you think about it, I'm 32. This happened when I was 12, actually, and I was telling Wesley.
Either way,
Wesley.
I was telling Wesley. No,
there's
yeah,
no there's no T.
there is no T. I know.
No T, no
You
cape.
just messed me up. I'm really good with names. No, I'm kidding. Humble yourself. No. Yeah, I was telling Wesley. I've never told this the 7-year-old story before to anybody. That's one thing that I buried very deep inside.
Jeez.
Yeah. So
So how do you feel? What are your thoughts and emotions about letting that out for the first time?
it makes. No, it doesn't make sense. But I was going to say it makes sense why I was just very numb to it all already. But I don't know if that makes sense. Sounds like Jumanji.
Yeah, it does. It's not picking up on the mic, but we're about to have a stampede burst through the wall. There's like drums or something downstairs.
Yeah.
I went through some like kind of traumatic things when I was like an infant, like not like traumatic like the same kind of things, but like, I mean, I saw my dad at a pharmacy, and when I kind of spoke out to him, it caught my mom's attention, and she went 0 to 60 and started throwing like ceramic plates at him from down the aisle. And I always thought that was a dream. Like, right? And so like I just assumed it was a dream.
Mhm.
It was a false memory. And I was telling my oldest brother about it, and he was like, "No, dude, I was staying with dad at the time. That happened. Like he came home and talked about it." And so I bring that up and to ask you, like, did you ever feel like any of those things that happened like were a dream, or maybe even like you just kind of hoped that they were? And
Did you dissociate in any way?
like didn't tell people about them because maybe like their affirmation that it happened would make it more real or
Yeah.
anything like that, you know?
That's exactly it.
Yeah.
There's also things that I remember from, you know how I mentioned that we had cousins living with us that raped my brother.
Yeah.
So those cousins, it was 6 of them or something. 2 of them were the ones that were doing that to my brother, but there was another one who I have these memories, and I always thought that they were dreams. I have these memories of like one of them always taking me back to the back, and I'm like 4 years old, and for years, like I would just have the same memory, and so, it's not like I would wake up and remember this, but I just had this memory. And then when that happened when I was 7 years old, all those memories would flood back. But because it's that feeling of shame and not wanting to address it, I would dissociate myself. And I would bury it and say, oh, they were all dreams. Up until I was 16 years old. And I'm closing my eyes, and Jesus is literally talking to me and telling me, I never meant for all these things to happen to you. I never wanted for any of these things to happen to you. And in every single one of those moments, I was there. I'm the reason why you were able to just remain in peace.
Mm.
And so that is what brought all those things back. Because before that, I was numbing myself to all of it. But the thing is, there was a question, I think, a couple of weeks ago that somebody asked, like, I think on Sunday we were hanging out, and somebody asked, like, what is a childhood memory that, or like, when did you lose your childhood or something?
Your innocence.
Your innocence or something like that. And I remember thinking, this is way too deep for me to answer right now. I'm just going to ignore it. because for years I stopped being a child.
I think it was like, I think Dima was asking like, when did you lose the ability to dream?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I was just like,
People don't dream.
and I remember he was like, oh, this is too emotional too quick, or well, I was like, nah, like let's do it, like yeah.
Yeah.
Or and I think Jordan even said that like he still
Yeah, he
does
still
dream. I'm
dreams.
like, yeah.
Do you guys not dream?
I do now.
I mean, like, I think the question was posed like your ability to dream, like to vision
Not
quest,
Yeah.
not
not
while
REM
you're
sleep
sleeping.
dream,
Yeah, not while you're sleeping.
Because I dream a lot, like pretty much every night, and for a long season, it was all nightmares. Like basically from my
I've had that.
halfway through my senior year, it started, and then continued for about 3.5 years. And the only way I didn't have a nightmare at night was if I didn't sleep.
I've woken up in the middle of the night, gone back to sleep, woke up again because the same nightmare. And I didn't even remember what the nightmare was. I decided I'm just not going to go to sleep because I would like wake up like shouting and freaking out.
Wow.
And like for me, like it was really hard because like the nightmares were either really gory, and I could figure out in the dream that like I'm in a dream, but that doesn't stop my imagination from seeing these like really bloody and gory things.
Yeah.
Or I couldn't tell it was a dream, and those were usually dreams of like past sexual encounters that I knew I shouldn't have been involved in. And in the dream, I'm like feeling guilt, feeling conviction. I'm feeling a lot of things. And it's so much that this is like a terrible thing happening. Because like just some random would be like, this is awesome, whatever. But like in my, like the conviction and the
Conviction.
is like really like what's kind of like making my mind make it feel like a nightmare, and it's like I'm stuck.
I think even that person's like, it'd be awesome. Would is not acknowledging the scarring that their soul's having.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In that place.
And so it was tough because sometimes it'd be, and they're all realistic, and I couldn't tell I was in a dream until I'd wake up. And like, I'd be like at work waiting for a text from that woman, and we'd broken up like 2 years ago. And then I had like, why am I waiting for a text from them? And I realized because this is like a fresh memory, but it's not a memory. It's a
Yeah.
dream,
Yeah.
So it's kind of an interesting thing that like how dreams can have, like they can contribute to our memory, and then
Yeah.
sometimes our memory we want to just kind of consider like part of our dream life or whatever,
Depending
So,
on the trauma or things like
Yeah.
that.
See, so 16 years old, I walked a little bit, I'd say a year or two with God, and then went back into the world. And what I mean by that is like I just started straying back into drinking and numbing myself. And for years, I would honestly sit there and ask myself, my parents love me, they're good, they've always provided for me. It's not like I don't have a roof over my head. It's not like I get beat all the time. And not thinking about all this sexual abuse that had happened in my life, because it's so pressed down to the point where I'm honestly thinking they're dreams and it's not reality. And I'm honestly asking myself, why do I keep trying to fill a void? Where is this void coming from? And for years I would do that until I realized it was because of all that sexual abuse that I'm trying not to address.
Mhm.
But it feels so real.
So you talked about going through a couple breakups when you were 16. Were those attributed to some of the trauma, do you think?
No.
No.
So because of what happened, I wasn't I wasn't sexually active until I lost my virginity when I was 19. And that was just because I felt like everybody was doing it.
Sure.
And I needed to. But after doing that, I was like, I don't ever want to do that again. It wasn't what I wanted. And so that was never a hang up. Relationships.
Even into adulthood?
Yeah, even until adulthood. Yeah.
See, that actually surprises me, because I guess I would have imagined there'd be people that would kind of freak out. Like, I mean, I didn't go through that kind of trauma, but I've definitely had like potential love interests lose interest because like I didn't have like a strong family. I was like, well, kind of blows. Like,
Well, I mean, it makes
what
sense.
can I do about that? You know,
It's unfortunate, but it makes sense because, I mean, let's say you got married with that person. They're thinking, what is the rest of my life with you and your family going to look like? And
are you telling me that coming from your family that
I have an awful family. I'm not saying it's unfair for me as well.
like
It's unfair that my wife has weird stuff coming from my family.
I guess what I'm trying to ask is like, you coming from like a more well-connected family than mine, would you reject me?
No,
I'm
I'm not trying to date you, Sean. You understand? You would do the same thing with another person, at least to some degree.
Yeah.
It would be somewhere in the hierarchy of your considerations. Probably, I don't think it should be the top. It should be like top 20 things that you consider.
Absolutely.
I definitely do have like I guess deal breakers, but I guess a lot of them like they don't really have anything to do with people's past, like because I feel like I've made my own mistakes. But like I think most of my deal breakers are like I'm judging you in your present, rightfully so or not.
Absolutely.
Like I'm just like
yeah, you said that. I'm like, yeah, the past doesn't matter. I mean, so long as it shows that you've learned. and
Yeah, I was gonna
changed.
say like if maybe you bring something up and like you feel like almost like a splinter in their soul, where you're like, oh, can't talk about that.
Yes.
They haven't worked that out.
They haven't
there.
worked that out.
Even though it's in their
So-
past, it's still affecting.
Yeah.
So you haven't had any like love interests kind of be affected by like some of that trauma? Or?
Like, I would say all my love interests were affected by that trauma.
Okay, but like
because I didn't address any of it until guys, when I say that it had been 5 years or 5 people up until a couple months ago, I just walked this out with a couple of ladies through a freedom curriculum.
yeah, I remember when I like hadn't even started the podcast yet. Like it was just like a thing Wesley and I were talking about. We were over somewhere down in Spanaway or Lakewood,
Worship, yeah.
and we were talking about it, and that's when I was kind of like, when this starts, I'm gonna have to ask Jackie, and I've been kind of
Yeah,
tiptoeing
because
around it.
That
yeah.
had just happened, I think,
Yeah,
that
yeah.
weekend or the week or something, and I'm like, you asked me how I was, and I'm like,
Yeah, talk about
dude, like, I'm so good.
yeah, talk about like define appointments.
Yeah.
And yeah, I just like it's been super awesome. The reason I kind of keep like prodding and asking about like love interests and stuff like that is because like, you know, having a family and being one of your goals and stuff, like I guess I kind of like I think about like hurdles and like obstacles like and things we face. Like, do you see this affecting you, like kind of being an obstacle for pursuing that goal? And once you do start to have a family, like, do you see this still kind of having lingering effects?
Oh, that's good. No.
No?
No. Like
That's awesome.
now on the other side of freedom,
Yeah.
no. It is possible to have a relationship and a marriage and have it be healthy, because now I'm not broken, and now I'm not looking for that person to heal all the hurt. And I also wouldn't respond in that place from hurt or pain or yeah.
Do you think you'd have any positive outcomes from that, having that brokenness and that healing, and that would you have any positive outcomes or behavior going forward into marriage or children?
Yeah, I mean, I would be much more aware and intentional with my children. And, you know, it's the intentionality, just being present. Like, I get it. My parents worked a lot. There was a season in their lives that they both worked 2 jobs. We were home alone all the time. And that's because they just wanted to take care of us. But they weren't present. It almost feels like they were void for a very long time in my life. And we had each other. I had my sister and I had my brother, and it was us 3. And we were, you know, coming up with adventures all the time, and it was fun, but you still need a parent. You still need nurturing.
Yeah.
Sure.
Taking care of is much more than just making sure food's on the table.
Yeah, yep. Listening.
I think it's pretty cool because I think I went into this episode knowing that you have different traumas, and so you have different perspective. You're a woman, I'm a man, like we have different perspectives in that. You're Hispanic, I'm white, we're gonna have this different perspective in that. But what I'm even realizing now is like you see yourself as like healed and whole, and like I think that's awesome because like I'm super pessimistic about like my past and how it like the implications it has on my future. Like my like walk around thought is like I'm less broken than I was the day before yesterday, and tomorrow I'll be less broken than I am today, but I'll always be broken.
Do you feel like
And then
damaged
we'll-
goods?
Yeah, yes. No, I feel like refurbished goods.
Oh.
It's like when someone goes to buy an iPhone and they're like, it's like I don't know how much
Used
iPhones are,
but
like,
in good condition.
right, yeah, like you get
Like
you
new.
can get like it's like $1,200 for the new one or something, and like, or you get refurbished for $800, and it's like, how is there already refurbished ones? And
Mhm.
but yeah, I'll take that. It's a better price, you know. And then like 2 years later, you realize, well, this thing's crapping out on me, so it's probably because I bought it refurbished, and like I feel like that's me.
No,
So where would that be in the hierarchy
no,
of,
like I'm just saying,
considering-
like I know it's not true, but like honestly, I feel like oftentimes I'm like quite honestly, like if I go through something traumatic, like a breakup or like just some of the things I've seen doing like ride-alongs, pursuing law enforcement, or if I'm having way too intimate of a time with like yeah, with Wesley. Yeah.
With
If I'm
what?
having
What are
like
you
way
saying?
way too intimate of a time in like community and worship and stuff with church, and I like stuff starts coming out then, or honestly, if I drink too much, like I'm just a mess. Yeah, have you've seen some of that? Yeah,
Birthday party.
yeah. But,
That
wait,
was,
whose
that was the
birthday
most
party?
yours.
Mine?
Yeah, we went to Seattle. And we
Oh, my
kinda had-
25th.
Yeah, we kind of take care of you a little bit.
Oh yeah, yeah. I'm like a wreck. Like right at that like blackout point, I'm done. Like in
What kind of wreck? Like,
Wobbling and like, no, no. You're pointing at strangers and like you're trying to get on their pool game.
No, but honestly, like, so like, okay, sure, like drinks 1 through 5, I feel like relaxed, and like I can feel it on my shoulders, like I can like relax, and then like drinks 6 through 10 are like everything's hilarious,
You get to 10.
I know.
and then like 10 through whatever, because I'm not keeping count at that point, is like everyone else's party is starting to die down, people are going home, and I'm starting to feel lonely. And I'm starting to feel like I've been feeling lonely for a long time. And then I just like, yeah.
Then you go drink more to get rid of that.
Dude,
Well-
that's why I stopped drinking.
Yeah. And then
I realized I only started because I was lonely and I
Yeah.
was empty.
and like that's why sometimes I'm like, it doesn't matter. I'm gonna say like, I don't believe this, but sometimes I feel like it doesn't matter how like put together like I make myself or I feel like God is making me, like I'm still a little bit broken, and it's like
It's a
sure
lie.
there's like freedom.
That is a lie.
Yeah, it's just it seeps up every once in a while, and so I just like I said, it's kind of like I look at it like wrestling. Like when wrestlers like compete at like 197 pounds, their walk around weight is 220. Like they just cut so much weight. For me as a smaller individual, like my weight class was like 130, 135. My walk around was like 140, 142, right? And so like I just have to cut down that way. So my like I look at that like thoughts, like my competition thoughts are like I'm made clean in Christ and my community loves me and I'm uplifted by them, but my walk around thoughts are like you have a lot of shit to figure out.
Yeah, and I was
And if you have kids, like you need to get this in check. You know?
That's
Oh,
where I wanted to
yeah.
clarify when I said it's a lie. You would know more than me, but with those kind of thoughts, you have to discern whether or not it's just a lie of the enemy and it's not true, or is there something there and can I do better? Because I think we always can, but not letting that be your identity.
Mm-hmm.
Is it conviction or guilt? Because I think those are two different things. Conviction is like, okay, well, that sucks. I'm gonna do better, and
Yeah.
guilt is I'm gonna hide away and make it even worse because I'm not acting.
Yeah. That's shame too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you also think about your salvation, Jesus died on the cross so that your sins would be cleansed, right? So that you would no longer have to deal with the last or the old person. So if you are carrying certain things, that's when we begin to pray, God, search my heart, cleanse my spirit. But these are things that we have to walk out. Like a lot of the things that you're saying, like you kind of touched a bit on it, which is like if there's, yes, character traits or things that I'm still holding on to. You can't. Sorry, that's how I took it. But character traits, those are the things that you work out. There's a lot of things that we were created with, like our character, that is also our downfall. And a lot of times, because it's not honed or it's not given over to God so that he can shape that out, so that he can like really sharpen it out, it ends up becoming our downfall. And it's the one thing that we don't even want to touch or want to function out of. Yeah. And so that same thing keeps you, that's sin. Shame makes you not even want to go there.
And ironically, the shame and the not wanting to go there, not wanting to touch it, is the biggest indicator that you need to.
Yeah.
So this has just been a segment on like, deal with your shit, Sean.
Yeah, Sean, you could be better.
I liked what you just said about like, God, I'm gonna misphrase it, but you were saying like, we have these like attributes and like we're really strong and we kind of like, I don't know how you said it, but it essentially reminded me of a song lyric from John Mark Millen. And he says, like, where you are strongest is where you go blindest. I'm like, blindest isn't even a word, I don't think. But I get it. It's like you got to make the rhyme, so, or the song. But, like, I think about that a lot. Like, I tend to think I'm pretty perceptive, but I overthink things a lot.
Yeah.
And it's, like, to my detriment, for sure. Okay, so I think we're going to wrap up here pretty soon, but I wanted to ask...
We could keep going for hours, how I feel right now.
We could, yeah. And there could definitely be a part 2 to this if you're down.
Yeah, I'm super down, dude.
I
feel like there's a lot to tell.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, there is. Like, and we're so much. So my question to you, and this, I just want this to be a broad question, and you can answer it however you like. Like, what would be your advice to youth, or just anyone, but more specifically, like anyone coming up, going through some of the things that you went through? Like, what would be your, I don't know. I don't want to limit to anything. Okay. What would be your practical, spiritual advices, you know?
Yeah. One thing I've learned is intentionality and being present. So if I would tell something to the youth is stick to it. Like, and the thing is, it's tough when somebody is not present. But if somebody is there, just continue to stick with it. Like say, and this is like just in general, I'm going through the motions. I'm feeling like I'm trying to channel my inner youth. Going through the motions, feeling like nobody's present, nobody's there. Find somebody. There's always somebody. And that's what I mean by stick to it. Like, you know that helpless feeling is not where you want to be. So stick to the good and follow that through. Yeah. I mean, it's tough as a child. You really think that you're alone. You do. And if you don't have the right people in your life pouring into you, being present, then you really are. I mean, at least that's what it feels like. Maybe this is like an answer for those around the youth or those with a passion for the next generation, is find somebody and change their life. Be present. Be that person that you wished you could have had when you were young. Yeah. Because the youth, they unfortunately don't know what they're going through. So even if you were to say something to them, they're very skeptical at that point. I haven't seen that to be true, or I don't know if that's actually going to happen. Why would I do that? At least that's how I was.
Yeah.
And so I'm trying to channel my youth, and I'm like, that's what I'm like, no, I don't believe you. I don't care. I'm just going to do whatever I want anyway. I'm going to go through the pain so that I could see that there is pain, or if there isn't, I'll figure it out on my own. I don't think anybody would have changed my mind, but if somebody would have been persistent with me, showing me that they actually cared and were genuinely present, then I would have probably opened up. I think that's why I really am like passionate about the next generation. I don't want them to go through the struggles when they don't have to. I don't want them to have to fix mistakes that they didn't have to go through in the first place. So leading them in the right place, leading them to the right place, in the right direction, that is something that if you have the heart for it and if you're listening, do it. Stick to it.
So I'm going to ask you a question, and again, it kind of like answer it however you want. If there's someone listening that is going through some sort of abuse, especially sexual abuse, what are some key characteristics in another person they can like tell and reach out to that would be wise to look for?
Okay, that's good. Definitely somebody who's listening. So, in my life at that time, there were people who would come and go, and it made me also very weary to who I would open up to. There were counselors that would hear about, this girl who would be writing stuff, and all this stuff is like a cry for attention, right? Pretending to cut yourself so that people I wouldn't even cut myself, dude. It was like fake, It was like,
just get a red pen, some makeup.
Oh my gosh, I don't even remember like
Ketchup,
lead pencils,
Sure.
Oh my gosh. Anyway, so they would send these counselors, but these counselors were like older, like the seniors, or actually at that time it was 8th graders, who would come and talk to you, but these girls were never present. So make sure that the person that you're speaking to is looking at you. They're looking at you in the eyes. They're actually listening to you by asking. Like, you can tell when somebody's actually listening to you is because of the words that they're saying back to you, or the questions that they're asking. So I would say you're already very aware of everything because of what's going on in your life right now. So make sure that you pick up on those small cues of who's actually present and willing. Yeah. That's
very scary to me, just thinking about so many kids growing up now with tablets and phones when they're so young and access to the internet. I can just see it in so many kids around me, just their parents giving them an iPad just to placate them, keep them from crying or yelling. It's very scary to think about them growing up with such reinforced habits of distraction, not being able to focus on things, not being able to look at people in the eye. It's very scary. So I feel like anytime you can create a space where people can be in the moment with each other, do things with their hands, I don't know. I don't know, whoever's listening, if you have a church group near you, and you can, help people actually kind of, I don't even try to have how to say it, like almost like discover their own bodies, because I feel like people are almost like trained to dissociate.
Yeah.
Because there's so much, like, their bodies are dormant and they're just staring at a screen that's have all these ideas, and it's like all in the spiritual, but they're not living in the material with doing things with each other and being there and seeing each other's eyes and reactions.
I hadn't thought about that, but that's so true. Yeah. Helping people be aware.
I think to kind of add on like this idea of like finding someone to talk to, and we're talking about you mentioned tablets and stuff. It started making me think about like technology. Like, I remember my sister was she was married to a guy who had 2 daughters, and one of them was like pretty interested in being on TikTok. And this is why part of the reason why I have a pretty negative view about TikTok is because this girl was like a teen, like preteen, and she was getting a lot of messages from a lot of like men, like adults, middle age, whatever, and they were trying to take advantage of her. And I'm not surprised by that. Like, I mean, the internet's been around for some time, and we've had social media platforms for a while, and this has kind of been a capability for a while. But I just think nowadays it's like what's different about now is that like technology is so accessible, like
It's in everybody's pocket.
like it's in everybody's
Yeah.
pockets. Even like
Very
fifth
recent.
fifth graders are able to have
Yeah.
smartphones.
Yep.
You know,
Look up anything they want.
Yeah.
and
Anything they hear of
and
other
there's
students
if
talk
it's
about.
not TikTok, it's another platform, and they could be going through some sort of abuse, and they could. There's a couple ways this could go wrong. Like one, they could connect with someone who isn't listening,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
Like whatever, or
And
is
being led.
or doesn't think that they're like, maybe thinks they're being dramatic. Like that's on the best case scenario in my opinion, because like other things could happen. Like the person could see that they're vulnerable and hurt and take advantage of
Mhm.
them.
Yeah, because those people trying to take advantage of them know what to look for and where to look for, where the
Right.
people who are hurt go.
And then like on a more noble wrong way this could go, like if someone messaged me randomly, I don't know why I'd be in that situation, but like some kid is like, I'm going through this abuse, like I'd be fired up and I'd be like contacting social services, and I could end up doing a lot of damage
Mm-hmm.
because maybe that's not what's best for the kid, and like
Disrupts their family life or
and so I mean like there's a lot of ways it could go wrong, and it's like I'm just more of a proponent, like guidance counselors, pastors, youth leaders, like people in person that you're gonna see daily, like I know like YMCA's or
Mm-hmm.
just things like that bring like community around.
Mm-hmm.
That's hard right now with COVID going on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Not as many things meet up, but and it makes it even more prevalent that things are going to happen over the interwebs,
Yeah.
and that's kind of like
I mean, just thinking about how much we're losing. We're already all the dangers of being disconnected, and all like the new world order of everybody being disconnected and together alone, and that's just even escalating it.
Yeah.
so. Yeah, I mean, I even think about like if this podcast gets bigger and bigger, like will I have people reach out to me that are going through an abuse, and are they a minor? It's like I'm definitely gonna follow up and be like, okay, what can I do to help?
Oh, I was in.
but like
This is a little bit of a tangent. I was in a similar situation. So I just moved into an apartment or like a house with two of my friends, and it was like a house, but it was in the same parking lot as an apartment complex. And there was this kid that would always, little white kid, I don't know, 8, 9, always run around on his bike. And I would just occasionally he would like say, hey, how are you doing? And we just, built a little bit of a relationship when I would get home from work or whatever. And I started picking up on some stuff. Like he was like, hey, he would steal stuff. He would tell me how to steal stuff. He's like, that vending machine just down there? I can get you something for free. And he like showed me like how he'd steal with a quarter. And then there was a guy that drove by, and he was like he pointed out, I was like, that guy, he talks to me all the time. I'm like, that guy? He's like, yeah, his name, I don't know. He started telling me the details. I'm like, I think that guy's touching you. I don't know the situation, but it's the way you're saying it. And like, I was like, I gotta talk to your dad. It was really weird.
Did you talk to his dad?
I was like, let's go to your house. And he was like, oh, my parents aren't home. And he asked for my number, and I was like kind of looking over like guardian angel. Like anytime that guy came by, I'd be like, how's it going? But it was a really weird situation with them. I don't know where it ended up.
you guys are in the middle of like filming one of your new YouTube episodes, and
probably
you're
not
like,
the best neighbors.
Hold on, hey, how's it going?
Yeah. Hey, don't diddle that kid. Hey,
Don't diddle that kid.
don't do it.
Yeah, I would say find somebody
in person.
Yeah, in person.
Yeah.
And if it's hopefully it's not one of your parents, I would say talk to one of your parents. That's one thing that I learned later on is I could have talked to my parents. I could have been the one saying, this is not okay. Why is he still in the house? But I didn't. It also wasn't my place, but I didn't do it.
I mean, I think would have definitely had a legitimate place to like make that request for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, even that, it made me feel like, and up until right now that I realize that I've carried that identity of it's not my place.
Yeah, I'm like, you definitely did have a place to
Yeah.
kind of share and vocalize it. I'm like, this isn't okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I definitely would have been like, maybe I wouldn't have. I don't know. I mean, like, it's weird being like, think about like what you do when you were a kid as an adult. You're like, as an adult, we have so much more confidence. And, like, there was a situation where my mom got attacked, and like my initial, like, I had to break this initial shock to like try to like jump towards this guy, but he just like threw me off with ease, and then I was stunned. I couldn't do anything. So you're talking about that feeling of like I don't know if you said shock, but like just not being able to do anything. I was like,
I said helplessness.
It's like paralysis.
Yeah.
It's like nothing, like body doesn't hurt. Body can move, but like body doesn't respond to brain says move.
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of a weird thing. So as we wrap up, any other like thoughts, anything?
Yeah, actually, while we were talking, I realized you guys asked, like, how many people have you told this to? One person did I give details to. So you guys are 2 and 3.
I guess another final thought is, if you've gone through things like this or anything, you know what you've been through. Find people to tell that. Don't wait until you're in your early 30s to start speaking up about this. Find someone you can trust.
Yes, right now, because
And if you're a parent and you don't, I don't know, like when I had that suspicion of the situation, I was just trying to go to sleep or something. It was late, and the kids talked to me, and I'm like, well, what situation am I walking into? Speak up and try to help people who might be in those situations, even if you don't know that they are.
Yeah. Thank you for that, Wesley.
Sean?
I don't really have any other thoughts.
Cool.
Ditto.
All right, guys. Thank you for listening, and hope you are having a good whatever time of day it is.
Yeah.
Peace.
Peace.
Peace.